I'm John Bond. Welcome to Move Yourself Happy. Made for fitness enthusiasts who want to make their passion their profession. Are you unhappy in your present job? Are you passionate about health and fitness? Do you want to release your true potential? If the answer is yes, this podcast is for you. I will be teaching you the specific knowledge that every trainer and coach needs to be successful. So listen closely as I share my expertise with you. So just like me, you can love what you do. Welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to do some Q&A with yours truly. So I've got a list of questions here. I've got 11 questions. Some of these questions just came in yesterday, actually. So I've pasted them in from the email that was sent to me. And I'm going to answer them all today. So hopefully you're going to learn something on the way. If there's anything that you're thinking whilst listening that actually you would like the answer to, then do send your questions in because I'll address them in the next episode. So let's begin. First question I got here is, when did you decide you wanted to be a personal trainer? Well, I've got to be careful not to waffle too much because that's kind of like my forte, is waffling. However, I do actually need to take you back to when I was 16. So for those of you who don't know me, or those of you who do know me, they probably didn't know this, I was not academic at school. I was terrible. I was always in trouble. I was constantly distracting other people in the classroom. I wouldn't do my work. And I imagine I was quite a handful for the teachers and a handful for my parents, having to go in and speak to teachers and obviously be told every parents' evening that I wasn't doing very well. I wasn't academic at all. And I did have learning difficulties, but as I've got older, I've realised that the difficulties came from not finding my passion. So doing something or learning something that I had no interest in. And when I finally found my passion, or certainly one of my main passions, I actually found learning came a lot easier because I really wanted to learn. I find it like completely impossible to learn about something I have no interest in. My mind just wanders. It can't stay focused. So I was a nightmare at school. And I remember going to see the careers advisor. And this was actually before the internet. Or I don't think we didn't have it at the school at this point. It wasn't something we could access easily. We didn't have it at home. But they had this old computer with a CD that you put on. It was like a careers CD. And the careers advisor set this up for me. And it basically asked me about 100 questions about me and my personality. And it threw out 2 jobs at the end based on your answers. And the 2 jobs it threw out was working in the military and a fitness coach. Now the first one I thought, that sounds interesting. I obviously knew what that meant, what that was, but I thought, my mum's not going to like that. She's not going to like me going off and doing that, so probably shouldn't do that. Second one, fitness coach, didn't know anything about it, read the description and thought, yeah, that does sound good, helping people to get fit. I loved sport. I was always active. I couldn't sit still, part of the problem why I was terrible at school. So I thought this could be a definite viable option. Now, I actually didn't do that straight away because, again, we didn't really have the internet then. So the only way you could kind of find out more about something was to go to the library and look at books. So you just go to your local library or talk to people and hopefully someone had the answers to what you want to know. Sounds so old school. Kind of liked it. It was a better world. No, I don't know. But I basically didn't know how to pursue that kind of that dream or that passion. So nothing really came of that. Now I'm not going to bore you with all the details, all my failures between then and then later on, because I did a few different things at college and wasted my time doing those. And then eventually I signed up to do, it's basically a level 2 gym instruction course, but it was spread over a year, an entire college year at Chichester College. And I loved it. It was the first thing that I'd done, other than GCSE PE, because I did really enjoy GCSE PE. It was the first thing that I just really enjoyed doing, and I was quite happy to go away and learn. And if I had a manual or a book, I actually quite enjoyed reading it, which was for me was just unheard of. Like, I'd never read a book until that point. Never. Even though I was supposed to for things, I remember having to do a book review for my English GCSE, and I chose Jaws because my dad had the book Jaws, and I just watched the movie. Wrote my book review on it from watching the movie. Anyway, so I did the course. I became a qualified gym instructor. It also incorporates circuit training. And then I started to work I just dropped into my local leisure centre. I said, look, I'm qualified. Have you got any work? They didn't actually have any gym instructors, but they had recreation assistant spaces going, or vacancies. So I started working as a recreation assistant. They would also use me in the gym because I had that qualification. And I loved it. Again, it was the first job that I'd had. Working in a sort of sporting environment just felt great for me. I was on my feet. I wasn't sat behind a desk, sat behind a computer. I was interacting with people, which I enjoyed doing, was always good at. So it was the first time I really sort of, I don't know, like found my forte, I suppose. And it was a good feeling. I was a bit of a lost soul, I think, up until that point. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in life, and I would be pursuing avenues that weren't my passion, but I just kind of thought would lead to a good salary or lead to interesting work, I suppose, but never materialised into anything. So I don't want to jump ahead because some of the questions will probably address this, but what I learned from that experience is, for me personally, it is so important to find something that uses your passion. Get a job that uses your passion. And we often say at Storm Fitness Academy, make your passion your profession, and that's because that's what I did, and it's worked, and I have no regrets about that. It's been the best decision I could have possibly have made. It just makes work seem like, you hear that expression, don't you? What is it? I don't know what it is. The expression that says something like, find a job you love and you never work a day in your life. Now, yeah, it's a bit extravaganza, that sort of expression. I think I just made that word up, extravaganza. No, it's not the right word anyway. But what I'm saying is it's a little bit elaborate, because obviously there's still work. Work is work at the end of the day. You still have to do things sometimes you don't want to do. However, most of the time, it's great. I enjoy it. I like it. I like what I do, and it just feels so meaningful. And for me, I think finding a purpose and meaningful work was life-changing, because God knows what I'd be doing if I didn't find this. So there we go. So that's when I decided to be a personal trainer, and obviously I did the level 2 gym, and then I just started investing my own money. So I every time I earned money at the leisure centre, I'd invest it back into myself. Don't get me wrong, I still had some fun times too. Loved the night out with the staff, but I did just keep reinvesting back into myself. So I did my level 3. I actually did my level 3 personal training course twice, because I paid for myself to do it, and then a few years later I just wondered if there was any new material or content, so I did it again, and there was actually. So you don't have to do that. That's just something I did. I did exercise referral, cardiac rehabilitation. I did a sports psychology diploma. I did loads of stuff, and from there I started to get such an interest in it, and I was doing personal training. I was really enjoying it. I loved working with people. I loved helping people achieve goals. That was great, because that had worked for me. And I then decided, God, if I want to be as good as I can be, like, what do you think the next step is? So then I decided to get a degree. I've gone on to get a master's. I'm a qualified teacher now, because I teach trainers to be trainers. So you need to be a qualified teacher for that, an assessor. So I've done loads of stuff, but I am still an active personal trainer. And yeah, it's an awesome job. So next question, what line of work were you doing before taking the leap? So I guess before I did my level 2 gym instruction, I would have just been doing sort of part-time jobs, because I was at college and things like that. Because I did that course when I was 18, and I'm 44 now. So that was a long, God Christ, what is that? That's 26 years, isn't it? 18, 20, 44. Yeah, 26 years. So 26 years ago. And I mean, I did everything back then, part-time jobs, because you didn't really care what it was. You just wanted money when you were younger. So I worked in a sandwich factory. I remember working in a sandwich factory, and you'd be stood in front of a conveyor belt, and a slice of bread would go past, and you'd like put some tomatoes on it, and the person next to you would like put some cucumbers on it, and then the next person, whatever, put some mayo on it, and then they were like, right, we're going to do ham and cheese now, and then the ham would come out and the cheese, and my God, I mean, some of the jobs I think back to that I did, actually, I have no regrets. I mean, they were incredibly boring, some of them, and so that was very, very hard with my personality type. That was torturous. But what it taught me, it gave me a lovely contrast, because whenever I have doubts about what I'm doing, like even now, if I start finding something a little bit tricky to do with business, I'm struggling a bit trying to figure something out, I always think back to, I could be chucking slices of cucumber onto a slice of bread as it goes past. So, there are some seriously worse alternatives to what I'm doing right now. So I guess that's kind of what I was doing before taking the leap. What was the trigger that made you decide to take action? As I probably covered already, that was my passion. It was just following my passion. And you do hear that a lot, and I think most parents will do that now, won't they? They'll say to their kids, look, we've got to find something you enjoy doing. And that is important. Now, obviously, you've got to be slightly realistic, because if you enjoy going for walks in the countryside, doesn't necessarily mean you'd enjoy taking other people for walks in the countryside. You probably would, but when you're talking about making your passion your profession, you do have to think, well, it's not always going to be you getting paid to do exactly what you were doing before you were getting paid and that you enjoy doing. It's just channeling it. I love health and fitness. I love reading books about how to become fitter and healthier. I love listening to podcasts about how to become fitter and healthier. I love watching YouTube videos about becoming healthier and fitter. I love talking to my friends and my network of other fitness enthusiasts and sharing ideas, and I love doing it. I love getting in the gym, and I love getting on the downs, and I love getting on the bike, and I love even taking my kids, into my cabin and teaching them how to do pull-ups and chin-ups, and so I just love all that. So being able to have a career where, obviously now I teach it, but having a career where I help other people nurture that interest in being a fitter, healthier version of themselves is wonderful. It really is. Like, I know I've already said it, but I honestly think I would have been a bit of a lost soul if I hadn't found this. And this is important. And I'm not saying there's nothing else I could do with my life. There's other little things that I've had a little go at, which I'll probably share in another podcast, some interesting facts about me that you might not know. But essentially, anything I've ever done that I've enjoyed, it's because A, I could do it really well, and B, is it's utilising a part of my personality that I like. So something about myself that I like. And I like my passion for health and fitness. I think it's important, and it's a real privileged job to be able to not only help other people become fitter and healthier, but teach other people to do the same. So, I was going to say I'm living the dream, but it sounds a bit. I was going to say a bit American. I don't know if that's racist. Is that racist? A bit American, but no, it's great. It really is. I technically I am living the dream, aren't I? Because I love what I do, and that is living the dream. What is the training like? Okay, so now for me, I started obviously with a college course, as I said. So I think I was in 3 days a week, 3 full days a week for a whole year, and I really enjoyed that. But that's not possible for everyone now, and that barrier for entry for a lot of people can stop somebody potentially making their passion their profession. So although that worked for me at the time, and then I've done lots of add-on courses since. I've done stuff online, I've done stuff face-to-face, I've done stuff one-to-one, but the way we do it at Storm Fitness Academy now is we have something called blended learning. So you can do it all online. So we have a state-of-the-art e-learning platform. You work your way through the videos. Most of the videos are me. Hello. So you'll see me a lot. You'll also see there's some videos of George in there, who works for Storm Fitness Academy as well. He's also a good friend of mine. And there's content you work through, and there's assessments that you do at the end of each section. But the beauty about what we do at Storm Fitness Academy, blowing my own trumpet there, aren't I? But no, seriously, because we mystery shop. This is something that you guys should do when you start your own fitness business. Bit of mystery shopping. Find out what are other people doing, and I know that we stand out. I know we do, and they always talk about, when you set up a business, what's your USP? And it's very hard to come up with a USP, which is a unique selling point. And every company will say that they've got a unique selling point. But honestly, like when you run a business and you are the face of the business and you're the heart and soul of the business, that is your USP, because nobody else has that. You can honestly say that no other company has that. No other company has me as the face of their business. And I am gonna blow my own trumpet here. I have got qualifications coming out my ears. I've been doing this for over 25 years. I am qualified to degree and masters. I've worked with professional athletes. I was the sports scientist for Brighton Hove Albion under Dean Wilkins back in, I think it's 2006. Obviously, I'm a qualified teacher, so I know how to teach this stuff. And I love it. I live and breathe it. Anyone that lives around my area that knows me, some of our students I've bumped into, they see me over the downs, they see me at the gym, so they know that I live and breathe this stuff. So having someone take you through your qualifications that you can contact when you get problems, ask questions, etc., has been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and still doing it. And I suppose that's the other thing as well. Like, there's probably a lot of trainers out there that gave up, and I've still been doing my thing since 1999. So, this is what I do. I've always said this will be me forever. I won't do anything else. I can't imagine doing anything else. But never say never. Who knows? But it will always be in my life. I'll always be, whether I get paid, whether I just one day just do it all for free, but whether I get paid to do it is a different story. But I'm always going to be inspiring and helping other people to become fitter and healthier, for sure, always, forever and ever and ever. Okay, so that question, what is the training like? So from Storm Fitness Academy's point of view, it's online learning. When you get stuck, you can reach out to me via WhatsApp. You get my WhatsApp number when you begin. You can obviously email. I send screen videos, voice notes, detailed answers to your questions, signpost you to other resources. And then if you want to see me, you can come down and take advantage of the workshops that you get included in your course as well. So people that are local take advantage of that, but then often we've had people like, people that are in Dubai studying with us, and they'll just tie it in with a little holiday down to the UK. So that option is available to you as well. So if you are listening to this and you don't live in this country and you think, well, that's not possible for me to come and see John face to face, you can just tie it in with a nice little visit to the UK. Come down to sunny Sussex. Right, next question. What's the best thing about being a PT? Well, I think I've probably covered it really, haven't I? But do you know what? So one of the reasons I don't work with professional athletes anymore, when I worked as a sports scientist, it was very much expected of you from the athletes, which are technically like the customers. It was all just sort of taken for granted what you do. And obviously I was working with football players, and apologies to football players listening, but it was a bit like working with kids. It felt like, sometimes it felt like behaviour management, like teaching a class of students that didn't want to be there. So it felt sometimes, because they just want to play football. They don't want to do all the other stuff. Might be different now. They might be a bit more professional. If I was training David Beckham, maybe it'd been a bit different, but I wasn't. These were paid players, but it was a different experience. So it was very much expected to, you were like a member of staff to them, because that's what I was. Now, when you work with the general public, they're paying you, and they're paying you well to help them get results. And when they get the results, they're so thankful. So you get text messages, obviously you can see it in their face. I'm big on keeping a training log. So when I'm training somebody, I'm always keeping data showing them how much better they're getting. And that training log, showing it to them, going, look, this is what you were doing when you started, this is what you're doing now. Fitness assessments, this is when we first tested you, this is what you're getting now. And just seeing that elation and them lighting up and seeing the transformation in them. Their posture gets better because you train them, to have better posture. But then I swear they just get better posture from having more self-confidence. They stand more upright, head held high, chest out, shoulders back, all that sort of stuff. So I think the best thing about being a PT, it has to be the impact it has. It is meaningful work. And I think that is the number one thing. But I could talk about loads of stuff. Like I say, the money's pretty good. I like being my own boss. That's extremely important. I love autonomy. I love to be able to go, I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to do that tomorrow, this, whatever. And, you build up a nice little friendship with your clients as well. And they get to know you, and normally stuff about your family and what have you. So they'll be asking after your children, and they'll even remember their birthdays and things like that. So that's really sweet. And it's like getting paid to hang out with some people that you care about, and interact. And I don't know, it's just, I've had so many times where I used to get this a lot when I trained clients outdoors. I would look around and I'd be like, I cannot believe I'm getting paid for this. And then I'd have those little contrasts about when I've done other jobs that I detested, and think, oh wow, I've really landed on my feet here. But obviously I didn't really land on my feet because I grafted to get there. But you still have to take those moments and just be grateful at how good your life is. And I talk to the students that graduate through Storm, and we stay in contact, and I hear about what they're up to now, and they're like, they thank me. I thank you so much for making this happen. It's like, well, you did the work, but I take it anyway. It's always nice to hear that gratitude. Okay, so let's move on then. That's the best thing about being a PT. What is the hardest thing about running your own business? Ooh, that's such a good question. Well, so for a lot of people, I think they might say motivation, but I've never struggled with that, because the more you put in, the more you get out. So you get a kind of instant reward when you're self-employed. So no, it's not that. It's not going to be motivation. The hardest thing about running your own business. Well, I suppose sometimes, but again, I like this. But sometimes it's the fact that the buck stops at you. You haven't got a boss that you can turn to. And I guess you can't just walk out on it, can you? I suppose in theory, if you had a real job, proper job, if you had a proper job, where you're on like payroll and you've got an annoying boss you've got to answer to, you could one day just go, I've had enough, and just walk out and never go back. And that would be a bit trickier to do, wouldn't it? If you walking away from all your clients. But I don't know anyone that's ever done that, wanted to just walk away from it all. But I guess that could happen. So I suppose that might be it. If you're the sort of person that wants to keep talking to someone to, ask for advice, get help, that might be struggle, because you won't have a boss. You won't have a line manager, usually, when you're a self-employed personal trainer. But you'll have a network, so you'll create your own little network. If you're working with Storm, you've got me, you've got George as well, who works here. He's great, full of great advice. If you haven't listened to that podcast with George in it, listen to it. I'm going to get him on more often. I'd like to get him on every week, actually. He's a good talker, good guy. That's what I would say. Probably the hardest thing about running your own business is not having a line manager to speak to, potentially. What's your favourite bit of gym kit? Circuit exercise, and why? Okay, so I think this question is basically what's my favourite bit of kit, and potentially type of exercise, and why. Ooh, so I love, I've got this is going to be really hard to just talk about one thing here, but I quite like minimalistic training. And I don't mean minimalistic training as in like using nothing, but I'm not bothered about having all these like numerous different resistance machines. Lots of different types of cardio. There's a handful of things I like to get really good at. So in my studio that I've got, my garden, or my cabin, whatever you want to call it, where I PT, I've got a squat rack. So it's like a power rack where you can do pull-ups on it. I've got bars for dipping. I can squat in it. I can bench press in it. Overhead press. I can do a number of different things in there. You can attach bands to it, etc. That is awesome. Like the day I got that, built that, put that in the cabin, that was a happy day. I'm very, very, very happy with that. So if you have some space that you can PT clients, definitely get one of those, because I think it was less than £1,000, and it will last forever. I mean, what an investment! It will last forever. And even if you stop PTing, you think you're gonna have a little break from PT, you've got it for you in your own training. So that's great, with obviously the barbells and the plates. Amazing, love that. So I'd say that's probably, if I had to pick, that would be my number one. And then I've got some I've got tons of stuff, but the stuff that I got that just kind of luxury add-ons, like I've got dumbbell racks now from starting from nothing up to 40 kilos are my heaviest dumbbells, and they're just so useful for just grabbing and cracking on sort of thing. So, and progressing and regressing through the weights. So I like my dumbbell rack. I've got kettlebells again, starting from like 4 up to 44. They're great. Love kettlebell training. I've got a suspension trainer. I don't use that as much for my own training, but I'll use that for clients, teaching them how to use their body weight, etc. But anyway, the question was, what was my favourite? And I would say it's just a good old-fashioned squat rack with a barbell and plates. Okay, what's the one thing you would tell your younger self if you could on this PT journey? Oh, that's such a good question, isn't it? The one thing you would tell your younger self if you could on this PT journey. Right, well, I'm quite happy with where I am, so I don't have regrets as such. So it's difficult for me to go, I want to go back and tell my younger self to do things differently, because I do really like where I've ended up. I might have said to myself at a younger age to learn more about sales and learning how to define your target audience and reach your target audience. Because when I started, I was very much a generalist personal trainer, and I would just help anyone, and I would try and sell people personal training rather than results. So for example, if I decided to very early on in specialise in working with older people, so I was exercise referral qualified, I had a cardiac rehabilitation qualification, I used to teach an over 50s group exercise class, so I could have focused on that target market. I was qualified. I'm always quite good at talking to older people. I don't know what qualifies that, but as in I've got experience of it and I enjoy it. I like chatting to older people. Those have got interesting stories and good life advice, etc. So, and my mum brought me up to be polite and what have you, so I'd always get the feedback that John's a nice lad, isn't he? He's a nice young man, and I am most of the time. So I could have focused on those guys. So what I would have been, if I was going to be a bit more business minded about things back then, I would have been like, okay, so what do that target market read, watch, listen to? Where do they go? They're the places I want to get my name out there. I would want to be making sure I appeared in the magazines they read. I would be wanting to write articles based on how to increase your longevity, or you talk to older people and find out what are their things they worry about, what are their fears, and how can I create an exercise program or a health and fitness program that's going to address those fears and solve their problems. So, and it can sound very cutthroat, all this, but it's not actually, because if you think about it, you're creating a business that is helping people enrich their life and solve their problems. Everyone's got fears, everyone's got anxieties, insecurities, and if you can create a business that genuinely helps people overcome those, then, and you get paid for doing that, I mean that's a nice existence. So I think if I'd talk to my younger self, I'd go like, right, John, you've got all these qualifications, which is great because it gave me loads of confidence and it helped me. It really did help me stand out from everybody else, because I could just, on my CV, it was like all this stuff that I had. I could engage in a conversation about health and fitness and hold my own really well because I knew so much. So, but I would say, right, John, you've got all this stuff. You're gonna have to pick something now, pal. Who do you best serve? Who can you best serve? Who do you want to help? And get really good now at focusing that specific target audience. So I think that's what I'd say to my younger self. And like I said, it's been okay, but it's, I would have fast tracked my career to being probably a bigger authority and essentially a bigger income. But I've done all right. But that's my advice to younger self, and any of you guys that are starting on board now. Start thinking about who you best serve, and it might mean you've got to generalize before you specialize. You've got to work with quite a few different people first to figure out who you're really good at helping, or who do you like hanging out with. We had Chris Hendy on the podcast a little while back, and he said, I'm pretty sure it was Chris, he said something about, think about the people that you quite like hanging out with and quite like chatting to, because that's going to be a good customer for you to work with on an ongoing basis. Because if you decided that, I reckon there's a good market for helping whoever. I was going to think of a very specific audience, but then it would sound a bit derogatory if I start slagging them off. But you might pick a very specific target audience and go, right, there's a big market for that, but you don't like them. You don't relate to them. That's going to make that job hard. So think about that. Right, next question. What's been most helpful for your career? Oh, right. So honestly, the thing that moved me forward, and this is going to be a bit annoying, I think, for people to hear, because it is a bit annoying, but it's just the way the world is. So they got to a point where I kept reading and doing more courses, doing more qualifications, and I always thought that next course, that next qualification was going to be the thing that suddenly launched me into stardom or whatever. I don't know what I just wanted to be like the best I could be. Now, there was a point in my career where I knew enough. I really knew enough, and what I should have done was, I suppose this is something I could have told my younger self, but what I should have done was now learn how to get myself out there. So how to build my brand, how to understand a bit more about sales and marketing and things like that. Now, it was a long time before I started to actually look at that stuff, and when I did, that then took things to the next level for me. It really did. So I actually went and saw a business mentor, and this was years back, and I remember her name, Claude, and when I went to see her, she was asking me all these questions, and my answer was no to them all. Have you got this? Have you set this up? Have you done this? And everything was no, and I was feeling very embarrassed and very ashamed, and I kind of, almost got rinsed really, but it meant there was so much for me to work on that was going to take things to the next level. And slowly over time, I worked away at all these things that I should have had in place as a business owner, and and that's, the rest is history really. So the thing that's been the most helpful for my career, being as good as I could be with all the training, experience, qualifications, that is really helpful. Like I couldn't have done it without that stuff, because it gave me the confidence and it gave me the ability to be able to do what I do. If I was on TV getting interviewed as a health and fitness expert or professional, I'll be all right. I could hold my own. And these new guys that are just qualifying and have learnt sales and focus their time and attention on that more than anything, they are making a killing, I'm sure, but they've probably got some serious imposter syndrome, and I should imagine at some point they are going to get found out. They're going to be, or they probably just hide behind their screen or whatever, but if they were in front of a lot of people and questions were fired at them, they'd get found out, whereas I wouldn't. And that being said, you do still have to learn about the sales and running a business and all that sort of stuff, because that can be quite stressful. There's a book called The E-Myth, and I read that years ago, and it said in there, just because you're the master of your trade, so imagine you're the best fisherman in the world, someone goes, you shouldn't be working for this company, you should run your own fishing company. Well, just because you're the best fisherman in the world, or fisher, whatever it's called now, then that means that you're not necessarily the best person to run a fishing business. So running a fishing business and being a fisher person they're two very different things. So I guess you can't just expect, this is that waffle that I warned you about at the start. I'm waffling already. Just focusing all your time and attention on being the best you can possibly be with regards to your trade, which is, working as a coach or a personal trainer, it's not the only thing you should be spending your time on. You should be spending some of that time learning how to operate and run a business and getting that business out there. And I'm going to talk about that in another episode, because I could go into one about that now, and I'd really like to actually, but this will be too long otherwise. But what I'll talk about is the sort of three things that I think any fitness business should be working on at any one time, and that is working on your sales, working on your systems, and working on your service. So I'll talk about that in another episode. So anyway, I went to see that business mentor, and I've seen several since, by the way, so I've probably seen 5 or 6 mentors now, and they've all offered different things. But what I've learned from all of them is, well, those 3 things actually: the importance of developing your sales, developing your service, and developing your system. So, but I'll talk about that in another podcast. What have been your highs and lows? So highs are always, do I say this? Turning over enough income and profiting enough income that you become comfortable and you don't worry about money. And, I remember back in the day, like having a menu and just choosing the cheapest thing on there because I didn't have much money, and just worrying about money. Money is, it's not nice when you don't have much money. I wouldn't want to go back to that. Now, my mum brought me up to sort of, you don't really talk about money and what have you, so I don't really want to go into one about that. But, I'm comfortable. I have the life that I want, and I can do the things I want, and that is definitely part of a high. Now, that might not have been the answer you wanted. You might want me to start talking about how wonderful it is that I get to help people, etc. And that is wonderful. But the fact that I can get paid enough to give me a nice life and lifestyle and freedom from fear of poverty, and love what I do, getting paid enough, or whatever you want to call it, to do what I love, that combination, that's a high. That is a high right there. That's a continuous high. One-off highs, there's been so many. God, like finishing my masters. I found my masters so difficult, so difficult. So finishing that was a big high. I didn't get my degree. Like I said, I was not academic at school, so that was tough for me. But I got them. when I got to work for Brighton Hove Albion Football Club, working with professional athletes, I think I probably talked about it a lot to my friends, and when they asked about it, they were interested. So, and taking my dad to, this is a good one. Well, I think it is. I used to get a VIP card, so I'd go to the games and I could go in the VIP area and I could eat the food and drink the beer, etc. All free. And I remember my dad was a big Brighton fan, and taking him to the game and going into the VIP area and just going, yeah, go dad, have some food, have a beer, that was a proud moment, because I think he was probably proud of me, and I could tell, and sort of bumping into players, and we bumped into Dennis Wise, and actually I remember bumping into Gus Poyet, but he wasn't, this is so long ago, he wasn't actually the Brighton manager. He would have been managing the team. I can't remember the team now. But anyway, so just sort of like, that would have been like a kind of pinnacle of my career in a way, and bringing my dad into that was nice. That was really nice. But it's you know what? It's the little highs that you get quite regularly, and that is clients becoming better versions of themselves, them realising it, and then looking at you. And their facial expressions, their body language, their gratitude and their praise, the text messages, that's their big highs. All right, so what are the lows being? Well, it's probably the obvious one, really. You can probably guess what it is. It was COVID, I think. COVID was a low point. I don't like being locked in. I do not like being locked in. That was a stressful time. That was a hard time for training providers, and it was a hard time for personal trainers, because nobody really knew what was going on. Obviously, gyms shut. We didn't know whether, as a training provider, like what next. Now, obviously, business owners have to be very good at adapting and pivoting, etc. Which, I did some of that, but there was a big part of me that was just like, maybe this is time to try something different. Maybe this is, God's way of saying this is it's time to move on to something else, or get a stable job again, getting a regular income or whatever. So that was a tough time. Lots of self-doubt, lots of conversations with the family. Obviously, some of us that were self-employed, we didn't get a furlough or anything, so that was tricky. No sales coming in. Who wants to train to be a personal trainer when gyms are shut? So that was tough. Clients couldn't train with you because of the social distancing. So we were having to do stuff online, and that was a tough time. But what you will find from all these things. Oh, and also, those that know me well, I probably put on. If you work in stones, maybe like 2.5 stone, so I got quite tubby, and that was from probably the dopamine hit of eating food. So I'd just eat and drink to get the dopamine release, because I guess I was feeling a bit low about what was going on with COVID, etc. I don't know, but that certainly happened. So that'll be a big low for me. Come out the other end though. Still got some of the timber to lose though. Christ, it takes a while to get rid of that. And I'm a personal trainer. I have a master's in this stuff. That's the thing. Education doesn't cover it all, does it? It's still trying to put that stuff into practice is tough. So that's my biggest low. This is the last question. Any words of advice for others thinking of training to become a PT? Yeah, so of course it's what I do. I've got loads of advice on that. Like if you think about me, if you think about the students that I work with, my graduates, none of them have ever told me they regretted it, ever. Like no one's ever. I think it's a bit like training, isn't it? Like no one ever regrets a workout ever. Like you don't want to do it. Sometimes the fear of getting out there and going for the run or going down the gym, the anxiety of it, all that stuff. That can be tough. It can be hard to overcome that. But then every time you make it happen, you do it. You always go, "Oh, I'm so glad I did that." And I honestly think it's the same when you do your PT qualifications. And there might be times where you're doing it and you're juggling that whilst being a mum, a dad. You might be doing another college course. There's other things going on in your life, COVID, that make it more challenging because of your other commitments, etc. But you still will come out the other end with my support and the help of my team, and you'll always be glad that you did it. And now obviously those that go on to actually channeling it into creating their own fitness business, and they love what they do and they're making good money doing what they do. Some of the guys are going on to do an online PT and making a killing, turning over crazy money. Obviously they're very happy, they're loving what they're doing there. But even if you don't, even if you just go, I just want to do it as a way to top up my income, or maybe you're not the main breadwinner in your family, but you just want to bring something in, but you don't want to just go and get any old job. You want to do something that channels your passion. It's the perfect thing for that. You get your qualifications, you get your insurance, which is cheap. It's not expensive. Your insurance that you get per year is like £60-70. And then you can just go do it. You can start taking money off people to help them achieve their goals. Such a fun job. You don't need a venue. You can do what I did. I spent 2 years training people outdoors and in their homes. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And my circumstances changed because I got a base, a home. It was like, well, might as well put a studio in the garden. So that's when my circumstances there changed. But you don't need that. You can just do it in homes and gardens and just get yourself started. And the world's your oyster. You can take so many side steps in this industry. You can. Look at me. I train people to do it. I've been doing it for such a long time, and I'm so qualified, and that it was the obvious progression for me. And it's just an excuse to talk about my favourite passion, isn't it? At the end of the day, I see it as the same thing. Training people to be fitter and healthier, or training people to help people get fitter and healthier, it's kind of the same thing. It's my passion. So my advice is, if you're in a job and you're going, don't know if this is for me, then it's probably not. It's probably a good chance it's not for you. Then just have a go. You've only got one life, haven't you? I know this is probably overused statement, but you've only got one life. It's not a rehearsal. This is it. And if you're on your deathbed looking back over your life, you're never going to beat yourself up over having a go at doing something that you think you'd love. I imagine actors get this. Actors that want to be in big movies, and they go after their dream, and maybe they don't quite. They aim for the stars, but they hit the moon. Maybe they don't quite get to be the lead in a big movie, but they have an interesting career anyway. They're not going to be on their deathbed looking back going, oh, I wish I just took that safe, secure job, working behind a computer or whatever it may do. They're not going to regret that. But they might, if they take the choice to just stay in that safe, secure job that's just kind of okay. If you hate your job, get out. Literally, life is too short. If you hate your job, get out. It's not worth it. There's science out there that shows that the synapses in your brain that release hormones that make you feel good, if they become dormant for too long, they atrophy, and it becomes harder to get happy. So if you stay unhappy for too long, it's going to be harder to get happy again. So if there's something that's making you unhappy, i.e. your job, change it. I refuse to do anything now that will make me unhappy. I've had times in my life where I've been unhappy because of certain things, and now I've removed those things from my life. And if your job is making you unhappy, and you know that you are very passionate about health and fitness, and you think you'd quite enjoy helping other people do the same, talking about it, watching it, reading it, learning it, you know what I'm going to say. Make your passion your profession. All right, there we go. So that's 11 questions I've gone through there. Keep the questions coming in though, guys, because I quite enjoy answering them, and I've got a wealth of experience that I'm more than happy to share with you. Now, if you're wanting to take the next step, then obviously, reach out. go to the website www.stormfitnessacademy.co.uk, submit a contact form. That's going to come to me, and I'll get back to you, and we can have a chat over the phone if you like, or we can have a WhatsApp conversation, email conversation. I can just send you the links that you need to enroll onto your chosen course. So anyway, told you I'd have a waffle up. Enjoy the rest of your day. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, something you can do for me is subscribe to my show. And if you know anyone else that might be interested in this content, then please share it with them too. You can also head over to our socials and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. But if you're ready to take that next step, visit our website www.stormfitnessacademy.co.uk, fill out a contact form, that'll come straight to me. I will contact you shortly afterwards, and I look forward to speaking to you then.